to our last installment of our series covering Ollie Johnston's legendary career. If you've missed our last 2 episodes, go check them out. We'll wait. You ready? Are you sure? Great. Let's get to it then. In our last episode, we left off with Ollie finishing work on the 3 fairies and Sleeping Beauty. Disney's next film, 101 Dalmatians, saw Ollie sharing work with Pongo, Perdita, and the nanny. His most notable scenes involves Perdita.
Perdita, the female dog, the mother, is back under the stove. She's worried about her puppies, and it makes a difficult situation for the animator because Pongo, the father dog, has to squeeze in under the stove, and neither one of them can really move much. But as I worked on it, I realized that was really the best thing, and it was a challenge to make it come off that way.
Oh, Pongo. I was so happy at first, but now I wish we weren't having any.
So little movement happens, but the little that does has so much power and emotional impact. It's a great example of how it's possible to get such elusive emotions as love and warmth up on the screen. On Disney's next film, The Sword in the Stone, Ollie animated scenes with Merlin and Wart, as well as most of Archimedes the Owl.
Of all the great laughing scenes in Disney animation, I think my favorite is Ollie Johnston's in The Sword in the Stone, when you have Archimedes laughing so hard at Merlin's idea that man someday is going to fly that he can't get his breath.
Men will fly, all right. Just like a rock.
It would have worked if it weren't for this infernal beard.
Unfortunately, Sword in the Stone was both critically and commercially disappointing, so it's no surprise that Walt decided that their next film would focus on strong character relationships that would drive the story forwards. This strong relationship would end up being between Baloo and Mowgli, a pair that would be given to Frank and Ollie. A strong friendship on-screen, animated by a strong friendship off-screen. What a fitting match.
Frank and I had these 2 back-to-back sequences that were really important to the picture. Without these coming off properly, all this character work we had done wouldn't pay off. This section that I had certainly tested me, and I think it tested our friendship because I had to rely so much on Frank too for help, and I think he relied on me in his sequence, and it was terribly important that we make these come off. This was the type of thing Walt talked about when he said, you guys get that personality, I'll take care of the story.
Yeah, but this is a tough part of this story because the story wouldn't hold up without these 2 sequences in them. It was testing the friendship of Baloo and Mowgli, and it was also testing our abilities as animators.
That's right, and also the tough thing was that Baloo was put on the spot in this. Bagheera tells him he has to take the kid back to the man village, and he says, why me? And Baloo had never done anything like this before. He was the physical type. He didn't understand how to do anything where he had to figure out a problem in your mind. That was all completely impossible to him. And most of my sequence went on with just talking, no real movement. They're just standing, Bagheera and Baloo talking. I think I'm most proud of the fact that between the 2 of us, we got that real warm friendship to come through. And that's what we wanted. We were both striving for that. And we both did practically all of the bear and Mowgli. And we felt would be the heart of the picture, and the warmth in a picture is what Walt always wanted us to get.
I attended a lecture that Frank and Ollie gave for the Animators Union out here, and they ran a clip of Baloo introducing himself to Mowgli, and I remember thinking, wow, it's just a pile of drawings. It's just a pile of drawings, and look how full of life it is.
It ought to be. And I remember on Jungle Book, he gave the whole key to the way the Baloo character ought to be. By just a little thing he did, he says, you know, you ought to get Phil Harris to do that voice for Baloo. He said, he's always doing this kind of stuff, you know, where he's snapping his fingers and jogging up and down, always working to the beat. And so that really proved to be the key thing to that character. And from then on, wherever we could, we had him working to music and to beat.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
Together, Frank and Ollie animated almost all of Baloo and Mowgli. Some of Ollie's best scenes include Baloo meeting Mowgli, the two during the bare necessities, Bagheera convincing Baloo that Mowgli needed to go back to the man village.
We'll do what's best for the boy.
You better believe it. You name it and I'll do it.
Good. Then make Mowgli go to the man village.
Are you out of your mind? I promised him he could stay here in the jungle with me.
And Baloo waking up from pretending to be dead. Johnston was also the directing animator on Bagheera. Ollie's final scene in the film was the bittersweet ending, where Mowgli is wooed by an attractive girl into the man village.
Mowgli, come back. Come back.
Go on. Go on.
At first I hated the idea, Johnston confessed. I wrestled with it, and the more I wrestled with it, the more I liked it. So finally I managed to help this little girl innocently seduce Mowgli into going back. After Walt died in 1966, many animators felt lost as the animation department struggled to stay afloat. On The Aristocats, Ollie shared the leading characters of Thomas O'Malley and Duchess with Milt Kahl. Unfortunately, friction appeared between the two men centered around the design of O'Malley. Andreas Deja writes in his blog, Milt had set the designs of the characters, and he also animated the opening scenes here. Ollie did the second half. You can see that Milt's version of O'Malley is much leaner than Ollie's, and yes, there were arguments about how to draw this character. Ollie told me that during the production of The Aristocats, Milt took a vacation to Europe. Even being away from the studio for a while, O'Malley's model was still on Milt's mind. So he sent Ollie a postcard almost every day reminding him that the character is not to be drawn too fat. Can you believe that, Ollie says?
Trouble? Helping beautiful damsels in distress is my specialty. Now, what's the hang-up, your ladyship?
Well, it is most important that I get back to Paris. So if you would be just so kind and show me the way.
Show you the way? Perish the thought. We shall fly to Paris on a magic carpet, side by side.
With Frank, Ollie also animated the geese Amelia, Abigail, and Uncle Waldo.
Abigail! Amelia! My two favorite nooses.
Uncle Waldo, I do believe you've been drinking. Oh, dear. What happened to your lovely tail feathers?
Girls? It's outrageous. Why, you won't believe what they tried to do to your poor old Uncle Waldo.
Johnston had a lot more fun on Disney's next film, Robin Hood. For this film, he animated Prince John and Sir Hiss, creating a fun partnership.
Prince John was a very egotistical guy, but also very insecure. So you had a lot of emotional qualities that you were involved in handling him. And he had this sycophant of a counselor, Sir Hiss, who really had no choice but to stay with this guy because who else would have him? So he became kind of sympathetic, and it was partly due to the great delivery on Terry Thomas, who gave him this kind of mincing quality, and also we used that gap in the teeth that Terry Thomas has to let the little tongue dart through. But there was a pair that you won't often get to animate.
Enough! Hiss! You deliberately dodged.
But, sire, please stop sniveling and hold still. Thank you, sir.
Grayson Ponte writes, a great inspiration for Ollie on the film was the voice actors Pete Ustinov and Terry Thomas. I'd watch the voice actors when I had lunch with them, Ollie remembered. I can't take my eyes off of them because I keep thinking I'll see something. I'll do it to Ustinov and he'll be eating and he looks at me out of the top of his eyes. Ollie continues, there's something very Ustinov about Prince John. He doesn't move around a real lot. And my conception of Prince John was the important things on him are the little things. He isn't the kind of guy who does a lot of big movements. He really is too lazy, and he only gestures. I like to see his mouth and the expression in his eyes. On Disney's next film, Ollie was the key animator on Penny, Rufus, and Orville.
I had a scene in Rescuers where Penny carries the cat out to go to supper. And she could have just walked out and had the cat follow her, but I wanted to show how much she liked the cat, how affectionate she felt, and how the cat felt about her. So I had her pick the cat up in a way really that practically strangles the cat, but he loves her so much he doesn't want to say anything about it. And she starts walking with him, and he starts to slip, and she has to boost him up. And it's much easier to do a walk like that than it is just a regular walk, where she has something definite she's trying to express, some emotional state.
Ollie also had a lot of fun with Orville.
So I kept thinking about it and thinking, gee, you know, that nature stuff on the Albatross had some funny stuff, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. And finally, I came up with this idea for a personality, which was based on the fact that he was such an incompetent flyer, and yet gave the impression that he was the world's greatest.
Are you hurt, sir? Nope. One of my better landings, bud.
Fox and the Hound proved to be the final film for the members of the Nine Old Men, and so was the launching pad of Disney's new generation of animators. Ollie would be essential in teaching and inspiring the new group.
It did start out with Willie Reitherman and Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, which are all some of Disney's Nine Old Men. They started off the picture and did some of the animation, set some of the characters, got it going, and then they had to pass off the whole picture onto brand new animators that had only been at the studio for a few years.
Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, Eric Larson were the old guys saying, you guys will do it. You know, we have all the confidence in the world to it. Someday you're going to do greater things than us. And I was shaking in my boots.
Besides just the mechanics of animating, we tried to get them interested in what we were interested in their own way, of course, and that is in developing personality and getting what Walt always asked us to do, which was to get the relationship between characters.
On The Fox and the Hound, Johnston did some early work in animation on scenes with young Todd, young Copper, Chief, Fixie, and adult Todd.
Oh, I like the relationship between Copper and Chief, where Chief felt this young kid was gradually moving in on him, and eventually he has to sit in the back seat. It's so true to life, and it's the young guy coming up and replacing the older one.
There were many reasons why Ollie left Disney when he did. There was his worsening palsy, the dissatisfaction with the quality of films, as well as a desire to write a book with Frank Thomas. Ollie retired along with Frank on January 31st, 1978. Randy Cartwright took over his responsibilities as supervising animator on the film, while the legendary duo stayed at the studio in an office together, writing their classic book, The Illusion of Life, in 1981. In this time, many young talents and animation students would go upstairs to their room and pick their brains about animation. Grayson Ponte writes, Illusion of Life is, in my humble opinion, the greatest book ever written on animation, and is a must-read for anyone who wants to be serious about getting into the art form. It is so deep and analytical and communicates what is important about Disney animation. Until Frank's death in 2004, the two men traveled to promote Disney and inspire animation students. They wrote 3 more books: Too Funny for Words in 1987, Walt Disney's Bambi, the Story and the Film in 1990, and The Disney Villain in 1993. Ollie Johnston passed away on April 14, 2008 in Sequim, Washington at the age of 95. He was the last surviving member of Disney's 9 Old Men at the time of his death. Ollie Johnston's influence on animation is undeniable. The thought and care he put into his art was masterful. While he worked closely with Frank Thomas, his art truly stands on its own, portraying convincing, realistic emotions worthy of his legendary status. Such a great talent. I had such a great time learning about his accomplishments. I hope you did too. If you like this, check out all the episodes on his partner and best friend, Frank Thomas. Those episodes fill in some of the blanks that the series didn't touch on. Or, if you want to learn more about Baloo, check out my episode about his voice artist, Bill Harris. Thanks for watching. See you next time.